Part 53. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 526. By the time Li Che finally walked freely, Yanj had stayed in Beijing for more than half a year. Father Li and mother came to Yanj several times. Yanj studies normally in class. They watch their daughter learn very well. Even if they are worried, they can't say anything. At first, the daughter said that it was almost fast. They were quite convinced. Later, they even had one of the plans to resign to Beijing to look after her daughter. Fortunately, this time the daughter did not lie to them, and finally returned home after learning. Li and Li hadn't had time to hold a blind date for their daughter Zhang Luo. Li Che followed him to the ground with his grandmother Li and Li's father Li, asking for marriage. Li Fu's mother refused to agree to this, but could not bear Li Che's firmness. If he agrees, he is also willing to agree to their succession to the Li family. If they don't agree, he will go to the Li family to be the son-in-law. Li father and mother. People say that their daughters are all spilled water. It is good to be here, and the son has become the spilled water. I was so angry that I didn't spit out my blood. But what can I do? I can no longer hold my nose to the Li family. Before the Li family came, Yan Ji had done the parenting work in advance, so although Li and Li wanted to bomb the Li family, they could think of their daughter's words. They can handle it, and they have to host the Li family. Perhaps the happiest person in this family relationship is Li Che. Although he always carried a blame, Li Che was really excited to think that he could finally sleep with his own little white flower in the near future, and that he could popularize the knowledge of both sexes every day. However, he is a very calm person, and even if he is happy and anxious to find a place to eat his little white flower, he has always been courteous and resolute. Even if Xiao Beihua secretly kisses him sometimes, he will pretend to educate her seriously. We are not married yet, we can't be like this. Mainly, Xiao Beihua's so-called kiss was to touch his lips and run, and he taught her many times with his actual movements, but this little white flower was stupid in this regard, which really made him angry. It gets itchy. Endured to endure the wedding night. Li Che didn't even drink the wine. After entering the new house, he said nothing to take off his clothes. The little white flower sitting on the bed asked him in surprise, "Li Che, what are you doing?" Li Che raised his head with a humming, staring at her with spitting fire. What was she doing? Of course. Yan Ji pointed to the position of the bedside. "Grandma is chatting with me. You have to go to the bathroom and hurry." Li Che. Sure enough, he saw his grandma sitting at the bedside, and he slipped into the bathroom. Grandma Li was also very embarrassed. "I never expected that my grandson, who was so calm, would be so anxious." When she left, she didn't forget to say Li Che inside the toilet door, "I'm going." Li Che didn't speak. If he hadn't left his little red pants just yet, he wouldn't want to talk to grandma anymore. Li Che, who was preparing to fight for 300 rounds at night, took a shower and went to bed in a hurry, and just rushed to Xiao Beihua's body. Little Bai Huiyan turned into a big wolf, pressing him directly under him. This is not the same as imagined. Say yes, he wants to show off his power? Why was the bullet dropped by Xiao Beihua? Afterwards, Xiao Beihua passed him several yellow comics, let him learn more. Li Che. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 527. This task was completed without difficulty and without any controversy. As soon as Yanj entered the mysterious space, a mahjong table appeared in front of her, and the chicken yelled on the high stool opposite her, "Come and come, in order to celebrate your victory, let's play a plate of wood happily." Words of song. She was too lazy to take care of the chicks, and she looked inside first. There was no big change in the body this time, but the leaves seemed a little green, and of course, it might be her illusion. "Where is the mighty one, have you become black? The chicken fluttered his wings excitedly and said, let's get out of the wood. How can the mighty man be blackened? Even if it is black, you can wash him white. Come, let alone these, let's play mahjong. Yan Ji was so impressed that the wok appeared in her hand. She held the wok and asked, can it be changed into another shape? Come and see for yourself. The chicken cub also helped. Yeah, even if it becomes an adult, it will become out. Now this Jill looks like you are playing mahjong. The wok was pinched in his hands, motionless like a dead object. Apparently lying dead. Song, I have the ability to say something to you. The wok doesn't move, no skill. Yan Ji sighed and said to the chicken, I'm in a bad mood and don't want to play mahjong. I want to enter the plane. Chicken, how do you feel you are being tricked? The nine-tailed hair that did not grow out of the hair did not come out as usual. For long-haired animals, fur is another dazzling capital of his own. Without hair is too ugly, he would not let Yanj see him like this. The ugly side. In the new plane, Yanj has not yet memorized memories, and she feels that someone is pressing on her and is doing something indescribable. Words of song. I reached out and wanted to overturn the man. As I reached out, I found out that her 5 fingernails were more than a foot long. Yan Ji scared himself. The man was easily overturned by the words and fell to the ground. Originally a corpse in a coffin, how could it suddenly move? The man climbed up in surprise, and by the dim light in the tomb, he saw the speech song that sat up, and the long fingernail of the speech song. I ran into a corpse, and I still encountered a corpse. The man was so scared that his legs began to shake, and he hurriedly took out a few spells from his pocket. I was still thinking, the spirits and spirits of the spirits and spirits retreat quickly, and the monsters and spirits retreat quickly. Yan Song was slammed with charms on his face. Realizing that the corpse was not moving, the man was relieved and said to himself, oh, the grass scared my son. After hesitating for a long time, he poked the poem carefully with his fingers. Seeing that the poem was really motionless, he felt the sweat on his face. The arrow had to be fired on the string, so although he was trembling in his heart, he continued to take off his pants after biting his teeth. As soon as he took off his pants and had not climbed into the coffin, he saw that the female corpse, who had been anchored by his spell, moved again. Yan Ji lifted the charms from his face, and when he looked up, he saw a man with extremely thick hair on his legs and his pants off. Even if she looks ugly, she will run into her to show off. Yanj stood up and limped towards the man's third leg. The man shouted screamingly to the ground, and for a long while he couldn't get up. Yan Song looked around. This is a hole. To be precise, it should be a tomb. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 528. Yan Ji's body was lying in a coffin. Looking down, he wore a big red robe that would only be worn by a bride, even wearing a heavy phoenix crown on his head. Presumably the identity of the host should be quite extraordinary. So is the host dead or alive? And, is this man a grave robber? Or, do you want to? When the man saw Yanj came out of the coffin full of spells, he was almost scared to urinate his pants, and he knelt down with pain on the third leg and bowed to Yanj. Auntie, I am not intentional offensive to you, Lord, I have a lot of my life around you. Yan Song gave him a cold glance. As soon as the man was trembling, his teeth trembled, and the words were unfavorable. Auntie, I will leave, I will not disturb your residence again, I will burn the paper for you, I will pray for you, and you forgive me for not looking. He shouted these words and ran towards the exit of the tomb. But after taking a few steps, his neck suddenly felt a great pain, and he fell to the ground with a stun. Yan Ji didn't expect that the speed of her body was so fast. Her long nails even followed her own idea to skyrocket to a meter, which directly pierced the man's neck. Had it not been for her to avoid the man's fatalities in time, it would be expected that there would be several nail holes in the man's neck. It was terrible, she scared herself. The man was also frightened by Yanj. He turned his head and looked at Yanj's spiked nails in horror. He covered his neck with one hand and kept kneeling down to ask for forgiveness. Auntie, I am really careful to make mistakes. Those who entered your cave house, please let me go. I have an 80-year-old mother to serve and a 3-year-old child to raise. It's no different if you kill me and kill our family. Yan Ji came to him, her long fingernails were scratched on his face, and she looked down at him. What are you going to do? The man immediately burst into tears. I was wrong, I just got greedy for a while, I was wrong, my aunt, is really my daughter-in-law dying for many years, and because you are too beautiful, my aunt, I am really not human, I am a beast. Yanj was unmoved, her nails were slightly hardened, and the man's face flew open, and the hurting man's tears flowed more. Yanj asked him, why? A fingernail with eyes closed moved to his neck and carotid artery. He didn't dare to move, he said quickly, it's my master who has kept you. It has nothing to do with me, he said, doing that with you can wake you up, and as long as you wake up, you can benefit the people of the world. When he said that, he seemed to have found a reason for himself, and even got quite a chest. Words of song. This evil way is also wanting to benefit the people of the world. This is really a panacea. And, after the old mother and son-in-law, this came out again, master. This man really didn't see the coffin and couldn't cry. Yan Ji's nails scratched again on his face. The man wailed in pain and trembled, and would not even speak for mercy. Yan Song frowned, shut up. The man snored in fright with the voice of Yan Ji, and stopped immediately. Yanj asked him, where is your master? After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 529. The man's voice trembled and he hurriedly replied, my master, he went down the mountain to catch ghosts, he won't be long before he returns. Auntie, my master is deeper, not half-level like me. You spared me, will I take you out of here? Okay, I will take you away, my master will not be able to find it. Okay. Yan Ji's nails were closed and the man on the ground kicked, get up. The man thought that in order to gain the trust of the word song, he still needed to waste a lot of spit. He did not expect that the trust between the human body and the corpse could be established so easily. He was ecstatic, and really had the illusion that he had crawled from the circle of death. Standing up quickly, he didn't mention the pants before, and fell down as soon as he got up. Then he looked up and laughed, Aunt Grandma, what do you call? Yan Ji glanced at him, the gaze was cold, and the moment he excited, he laughed and froze. Yanj asked him, how long have I been lying here? The man said busily, you should have been lying here since your death. My master has not moved your grave. Why do you and your master know my grave? You are grave robbers. The man hurriedly shook his head, no, you are our corpse. I have been waiting for you to become a flying corpse. Yanj raised an eyebrow, a dead body. Flying dead. The man didn't expect that he would talk about it. He really wanted to reach out and slap him. He regretted it at the moment. Yes, in fact, it can be a good corpse, just like you can now and normal people without having to give birth. Same, isn't it? Ha 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 ha. Like a normal person, such a long fingernail is sharper than a sword, and the suffocating death on the body, which normal person will become like this. What the man said was really contrary to his intentions, but now he didn't dare to provoke words, and he was afraid that what he said was wrong, so he died in the hands of his own corpse. Yanj asked him again, "How long has it been since I died?" The man didn't know, only Hu Yan, "It should be decades, logically you won't wake up so soon." Before he finished speaking, he was stopped again, and he felt that his mouth was enough. "Yanj, since I won't wake up so quickly, why would I wake up?" The man's willpower to survive is very strong. He has already applied medicine to the neck wound while talking, and tore a piece of clothes around his neck, so that the blood on the neck will not continue to flow. In fact, at the moment, he was very embarrassed at the moment. He didn't know whether he would be poisoned by corpses and become a zombie. Although he had swallowed several anti-corpse pills, he was not sure at all. Hearing his words, he flinched and said, I'm not too clear. This is clearly a guilty conscience." He was so anxious that he wanted to arrange a perfect reason in his heart. He listened to Yanj and asked, "What kind of school are you?" We are the Nandu faction. Our faction is very righteous, and we have always helped the people around us to catch ghosts and monsters, and Grandma, really, all of us are good people." "Who said this? Even the head keeps corpses. Will there be good people in this martial art?" "My master keeps his corpses to deal with demons. Nowadays, demons are rampant in this world, and people's abilities are not enough. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 530. Yanj ignores the righteousness in his words. "What about you? I am the corpse raised by your master, why are you so stingy?" The man probably did not expect that the idea of Yanj would be so clear. He opened his mouth and suddenly felt that this zombie was not at all fool. Looking down, he said with great frustration, "My master, he is too kind and has been reluctant to do such things to you, but demons are prevalent in this world, and disturbed people do not talk about life, and we alone can never be with demons. Confront. I know that master is unwilling to do this kind of thing, so I want to do it for him. I will be accused of infidelity. Grandma, you may think I am cruel, but I think if I can sacrifice you and me, let peace in this world is actually very worthwhile." His voice was quite tragic at the end. Because of what he did, Yanj didn't believe what he said. He heard the words coldly, "Have you ever asked my opinion? Have you ever asked me if you want to?" A corpse, how did he ask? He didn't feel the consciousness of the body at all. But talking to Yanj at this moment, she found that everything she said was very organized, and he was a little scared. It wouldn't be possible to keep a flying corpse for decades or hundreds of years, and even if it became a flying corpse, there should be no ordinary people's thinking. What is going on in front of this? Even if she woke up as a zombie because the pill he fed worked. But her situation was obviously different from that. Is this a corpse or a zombie? The man was very worried. He did not expect that he would steal the chicken without losing rice. The most important thing is that this corpse now has not only strength and force, but also a brain, and he can't fool her at all. How to do? This way out has been winding for a long time. Yanj has been walking beside the man. She felt that the five senses of her body were very keen. Although the road was surrounded by darkness, only a lamp in the hand of a man was dangling, but everything within 3 meters around her could be clear. Because you can feel everything around you, Yanji doesn't care about the little movements of men. After all, this guy can't escape her senses with every move. Fortunately, the man didn't seem to want to do any small moves. Out of the cave. The dazzling sunlight outside the song closed the eyes instantly, and the subconscious wanted to return to the dark again. At this time, the man scooped out 3 meters away and yelled back, "You go back, you are a zombie, and the zombie will be burned to ashes when the sun shines." Well, I thought he was kind of funny all the way, he was waiting for her here. Yanji sneered, settled a little, and opened his eyes. "The sun is too dazzling. Everything seemed to be shrouded in the white sun, and her eyes could not see anything at the moment. However, the five senses are still clear. Even if you can't see it, everything around you can be very clear. Except that the opposite man could only see a dark shadow and could not see the five senses, except that the sun fell on her exposed skin and made her uncomfortable. It seemed that there were no other side effects. Therefore, regardless of the man's cry, Yanj took another step forward. The man shouted in a terrified shout, "Do you know that you will be burned by the ashes and smoke? Do you hurry back, you cannot stand under the sun. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again." Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 531. Of course, the man is not so kind, mainly because he is afraid to talk to him to kill him, so his roar even brought so much despair. So when he realized that the song had taken another step, he turned away without thinking. Damn, he thought this guy had a little brain, so he couldn't understand anyone. Let's run quickly. He was panting and wanted to run to the martial arts hall. Master Grandpa, it's not good, Master's corpse is perfect. Grandpa, it sounds like he is much taller than that so-called master. Yanj was not in a hurry, so she walked so unhurriedly, mobilizing her senses to look at everything around her. In the sun, she couldn't see what color was in front of her, and the trees and flowers that were in her eyes were all black shadows, but there was a slight or deeper difference. The steps under the eyes can be seen clearly, although it is only a shadow. She stepped up the steps step by step. There were quite a lot of steps. I don't know if it was because of her vision problems or the steps were so many that she couldn't see her head. After walking for a while, she heard footsteps behind her. Footsteps stagnated, but Yan Song did not turn his head, but just felt how far the person came from himself by the slight footsteps. How far is it? It seemed as if she would soon approach her. There was a smell on the person. Although this smell made her body a little excited, she could bear it. Just like piercing a man's neck before, although the smell made her want to take a sip, but she could suppress the brought by her own body. The man walked, stopped, and walked more slowly. It seemed hesitant. What is he hesitating? Is she good or bad? Still hesitant to kill her? After all, from the words of the man who ran away, Yan Ji speculated that the man behind him must be the master said by that man. She sensed it a little, though there was a smell on her body that made her like it. However, aside from the smell, it seems that the pure flesh smell of himself makes her prefer. He seemed to have an air of heaven and earth that all beings liked. This kind of breath made her want to turn around and pounce on him, take a bite of his body and taste his flesh. This is really an idea that makes Yanj feel novel. The host wanted to come, really a zombie. What kind of wish can a zombie have? In words and thoughts, the footsteps of this so-called master finally came closer. Close at hand, she could only see him if she turned her head slightly. However, Yanj did not move. Anyway, even if he turned his head, he could not see his features, so he might as well move to give him a mysterious back. So she heard him ask, "Girl, where do you come from? Girl, where do you come from?" Yan Ji heard this and wanted to laugh. She wore a big red wedding dress with a phoenix crown on her head. If she was really his corpse, would he not know where she came from? Perhaps this person is not the so-called master. As soon as this idea came out, Yanj thought he might be right. Because of this, the bit of killing in her heart disappeared at this moment. From where it comes? He stepped on the steps walking with her, tilted his head slightly, and looked at her. Even though Yanj did not tilt his head, he could feel the scorching gaze that fell on him. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 532. That was not a man looking at a woman. It's weird and weird. The man's gaze seemed to be an emotion of desperation and fear to scare her away. The emotion was so intense that she could feel it. Is this a bunny? She heard him ask again, where is the girl going? Where to go? Yanj did not fuse the memory of the host, and naturally did not know the host's wishes, so he casually answered, where to go? Questions and answers seem to have deep meaning, but they are like nonsense. The man hesitated and asked her again, the girl is standing here, waiting for someone. Song, yes. Waiting for the previous man to come here with his grandfather. Also waiting for the so-called master in the man's mouth. The sun is too bright, can the girl be hot? Why wait under that willow tree? There are trees on both sides of the steps. Yan Ji can only see the shadow of the tree, but can't tell what tree it is. She didn't know the intention of the man and didn't want to waste time, she just said, no need. About to notice the impatience in her tone, the man didn't speak again. But without leaving, he stood beside Yan Ji, on the same steps as her. Yan Ji simply asked him, who are you? He listened to her question, looked up at her, and the emotion that had been suppressed by him at this moment had poured out, and his eyes became hotter and hotter, making the song a little uncomfortable. She frowned slightly, the man felt it, and immediately lowered his head to calm his face. My name is Xinjian, he said, walking in the world, the smoke of fireworks. She didn't ask so clearly, oh. Yan Ji nodded, you have the blood of others. He glanced down at her exposed hand under her sleeve. The hand was basking in the strong sun, and the dry skin was formed layer by layer at a speed visible to the naked eye. Looks weird. He replied, just now a wild boar turned into a sperm that harmed the villagers. I killed it. It sounds like a martial arts fight. Yan Ji moved him closer to the so-called master, and simply asked him, you are the head of this Nandu faction. Xin Yan hasn't answered yet. The man who wanted to sing songs with a peach sword in one hand and rushed from the mountain with a black dog in one hand. When he looked up and saw Xin Yan, he cried with joy, Master, Master, you are finally back, your corpse has become perfect, she almost killed me, wow. Yan Song turned his head and looked at the man. Obviously they are masters and apprentices, but the tone of the tone can be heard, and the two really have nothing to do with each other. When the song was sung, the man was frightened, and he dared not rush forward. He only stood far away and called to his master, 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 she's perfect, you quickly subdue her. Lest she go out to harm the people. Yan Song puzzled him, why do I harm the people? The man was afraid that his master looked at such a beautiful woman, and did not believe what zombies she was. He replied boldly, you are a zombie. You must blood and eat meat, of course, it will harm the people. Yanj sneered, if I want to drink blood and eat meat, I would have swallowed up your life that dared to abuse me as long as I woke up. Sure enough, as soon as this remark came out, not only did the blood on the man's face fade, but even the smoking cigarette, which he called master, was staring at the man with a stare and stare at this moment. Tianyi, what have you done? After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 533. The smoke was so angry that he didn't finish talking. He rushed beside the man named Wu Tianyi, reached out and grabbed Wu Tianyi's collar, and lifted his feet off the ground. He raised his hand and smashed his fist into Wu Tianyi's face. With the head tilted aside, Wu Tianyi's neck was previously pierced by Yan Ji's nails, and blood was squirted again. Master Wu Tianyi was shocked and angry, and shouted, Master, how can you do this to me, it is a female corpse. My father said that Zongmen guarded her just to make her a flying corpse in the future. Help me Nandu, Master, have you forgotten what my father said? You treat me like this for a female corpse, can you keep my father in your eyes? I call you Master to respect you, but what do you mean? Wu Tianyi's scream hesitated for a moment. The next moment, the line of smoke threw Wu Tianyi down the steps. At such a high level, he didn't let go when he threw. When Wu Tian fell to the ground under the steps, he was already embarrassed. He didn't expect that he, a seemingly gentle and unprincipled master, would treat him like a son of his head. Wu Tianyi, angry, stood up holding his breath, pressed the wound on the neck with one hand, and smoked with one finger. Okay, you will be a big-tailed wolf. My father looked I'll be blind to bring you into the Nandu faction, but I still want you to be in charge. I've never seen someone as ungrateful as you. Hundreds of miles of smoke stood on the steps and looked down at Wu Tianyi. Go away. If I see you again next time, I will crush you to death. His voice was astonishing, like the thunder, and there was a kind of world that seemed to be shaken by his words. Wu Tianyi's legs shook softly and fell to the ground. Frightened too much to make a sound. With only a look of resentment and unwilling stare at the miles of smoke but ignored Wu Tianyi. He took a few steps and stood on the same steps as Yanj, and then looked back to Yanj again. Yan Song is also somewhat surprised. This man named Blackened, this style of acting is really a bit surprising. Moreover, it seems that what Wu Tianyi did to the host in the tomb had nothing to do with the smoke. Hundreds of miles of cigarettes reached out to pull the song. Yan Ji ducked a little and avoided his hand. Blackened smoked his eyebrows and looked at Yanj. He said, "Where should I take you?" Different from the cold and murderous spirit when talking with Wu Tianyi, at this moment his voice is warm, and every move, looks like a poet who is full of poems. His voice is more gentle and polite. In charge. Yanj didn't speak, her mouth was a bit dry, and her body wanted to follow Wu Tianyi's blood to Wu Tianyi's blood. Of course, what struck her most was the man in front of her. He was now very close to her, and the pure breath on his body seemed to be stronger. At this moment, the man was like a walking cake to her, which made her want to bite him. Alas, not a bite. I want to bite a lot. The words did not move. Blackened did not allow her to stand in the sun, and he took a step forward and directly hugged Yanj, and walked towards the mountain step by step. Words of song. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 534. Although it feels a bit inexplicable to be held by this person. But the taste of the man was so seductive that Yanj didn't want to resist at all. Not even willing to reject it. She thought the man was going to hold her back to the tomb, but he did not expect that the man was not going in that direction. Blackened turned to turn around, Wu Tianyi immediately shouted, "She is a zombie, maybe she is a flying corpse, you have to chase me out for such a scourge of one party, I disagree. Hundreds of miles of smoke never looked back, only a low yell, "Get out!" Wu Tian, who had just stood up, repeatedly fell to the ground because of this voice. Yanj felt that it was necessary for her to make a statement, so she said to the person holding her, "Be assured, although I am no longer a person, I will not act recklessly, nor will I harm the people." Because of the scent of the flesh that made her stingy, she was unknowingly gentle when she spoke. Blackened bowed her head and smiled at her, "I know." Obviously he couldn't see the man's features, but Song felt that he must look particularly good when he laughed. The arm of Blackened moved slightly around her shoulder, and put her finger on her lips. He said, "Hungry, you can my blood." Words of song. She remembered that she had vowed before, as if she had said no blood. But for some unknown reason, the man put his finger on his lips, and his voice carried a temptation that she could not resist. She thought about not, and she bit her mouth without hesitation. When the lips and teeth touch the blood, it is not the smell that is imagined, but a relatively sweet and rich fragrance. It's strange, how could this be the smell of blood? Taking a sip, it seemed as if she had stimulated the restraint in her heart, her eyes turned red unknowingly, and two of her front teeth also became sharp. She even wanted to tear the man in front of him into pieces, drank his blood, ate his meat, and even his bones. She didn't want to waste it. She could put it in her pocket and chew it out from time to time. Snacks. Yanj doesn't know how he got this idea. It was a novel idea that made her feel funny. Even though she was full of body, she did not continue after taking a breath of blood. Holding back to Pentium's sex, she let go of his finger. When he got the blood beads with his fingers, he was busy and rolled the blood beads into his mouth with his tongue. Yanj, it is a good habit to embarrass her not to waste food at all. Hundreds of miles of smoke, he looked at Yanji's behavior, and the tenderness in his eyes became more and more undisguised. However, his look was basically flirted with the blind man. Above the steps is a small training martial arts field. After walking around the martial arts field for a long distance, we reached a bamboo forest. Bailey Xinjian put down the song in front of a small wooden bridge outside the bamboo forest. He said, "This is where you live." Yan Ji helped his own crown, and said, "Oh. Dislike." She didn't really have any requirements in this place, no matter the grave, nor the bamboo forest. She didn't care. She left his body and left her heart empty instantly. It was as if the roast duck in hand suddenly flew. Devouring beasts, it is definitely not me who smokes 100 miles, so I will not become food. The mighty, it's even more impossible for me to eat this between me and Yanj, it's never been this way. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 535. However, it can't blow the confidence of food either, so Yanj shook his head and shook his head immediately. It's not that I don't like it, I can't see it. She didn't want to expose her shortcomings at the moment. But this 100 miles of smoke is because the smell on his body is so good that she can't afford to be prepared. The sun is too bright. Everything around you, including you, is a shadow to me. I can't see anything. The smile on Bailey Xingyan's face slowly froze. He reached out and wanted to hold her in his arms again, but she took his hand. "You can take me by walking, you don't need to hold." She was afraid that she would gradually get maggots in his arms, and could not help but hate him. Bailey Xing didn't refute. He took her hand, walked slowly forward, crossed the bridge, that is, the stone road. This time, he picked her up without asking. Words of song. Well, in fact, she does not reject, she really likes to be held by him. His nose was against his chest, and he smelled the smell of him. Real Nemas, it felt like a person who was hungry for a lifetime smelled the smell of meat. Wonderful. To bite or not to bite? She rubbed her teeth and tried to divert her attention with the topic. "Do you know me?" "Well," Bailey Xingyan said, "I know you. I can't do it, is your bride." After all, he was wearing a bridal attire. After 100 miles of smoking, he bowed his head and looked at Yanj's pale, bloodless face. She seemed to have no memories. She has no memory, and is not the same as before. His thoughts gradually drifted away, or his chest hurt a little, and pulled back his thoughts. She looked up and looked at him with a guilty smile. "I accidentally bit you, I'm sorry." He hugged her tightly. "Anyway, bite. Does this person think that his flesh can grow out instantly after being bitten?" Although Yan Ji panicked, he didn't stop talking. This man always felt weird. Although he smelled really good, she didn't want to bite him anymore. "I'm not your bride," Yanj continued to ask him. "How do you treat me this way? What's my relationship with you?" Bailey Xing opened his mouth and did not answer. Yan Song looked up at him puzzlingly, although he could not see what he looked like, but she felt that at this time, he seemed quite tangled. Anyway, she can fuse the host's memory, and then she will know everything. So now, Baliksinjian's answer is unnecessary to her. She just wanted to transfer her own maggots in this way of chatting. Is this bamboo forest where you usually live? No, he said, this is for you. After crossing the bluestone slab road, it is a fenced yard surrounded by bamboo. There is a bamboo weave in front of the yard. Yanj asked him, what is written on it? Listening to the wind. It's a pretty good name. It was too popular, and she didn't stand tall at all. She landed from his arms, ignored the hand he stretched out, and stepped into the yard first. The geese were raised in the yard. When they saw people, they fluttered their wings and came over. Yanj was a stranger. They dared to greet Yanj and tried to drive the outsider out. Still 100 miles of smoke aside, these geese hurriedly blocked, this is your master, you must listen to her, and do not bite her.